Number 7. Keith Smith. Roughly half an hour past midnight on December the 1st of 2018, Maryland police were dispatched to a home in the 1000 block of Valley Street, Baltimore, after they'd received reports of a violent altercation on the premises. Upon their arrival, officers learned that 52-year-old Jacqueline Smith had been fatally stabbed after stopping to give money to a panhandler. The victim's husband, Keith, told investigators that they'd been returning home after celebrating their daughter's birthday. He went on to say that he and his wife had driven by a woman carrying an infant in one arm and in the other a sign that read, "Please help me feed my baby." According to Keith's account of the incident, he pulled up next to the woman so that Jacqueline could hand her $10 through the car window. In the moments that followed, she was allegedly attacked by a man who was described as being in his 30s. Initial reports on the matter portrayed Keith as a traumatized victim who'd been an eyewitness to his own wife's murder. However, it emerged during the course of the police's investigation that his original testimony had been filled with inconsistencies and lies. His grieving husband facade, much like the rest of the story, had been a fabrication meant to distract investigators from the fact that he'd actually been responsible for Jacqueline's death. As was detailed by the Baltimore City State's attorney, the woman was actually asleep when the fatal stabbing occurred, and Keith himself had carried out her killing in order to secure a life insurance payout. The couple's adult daughter, Valeria, had allegedly helped her father cover up the murder by corroborating his false report about the panhandlers. In exchange for a lighter prison sentence, Valeria ultimately agreed to testify against her father in court. In December of 2021, Keith was found guilty of first-degree murder and carrying a dangerous weapon with intent to injure, and he was consequently sentenced to life in prison plus 3 years. Number 6. Edawn Louis Coughman. After receiving reports of a burglary in progress on the night of September the 11th of 2019, police in Gwinnett County, Georgia, headed to a local business called Create and Bake Restaurant and Coughman's Creamery. The 911 caller had told the emergency dispatcher that a suspect driving a black Chevrolet Silverado with no license plate had broken into the bakery and was damaging the property inside. Officers searched the surrounding area and eventually came upon the vehicle described by the witness. Its driver, former professional football player Edawn Louis Coughman, reportedly had several television sets in the bed of the truck as well as inside the cabin. Coughman was identified as the owner and operator of the bakery that had been reported as burglarized. Upon inspecting the purported crime scene, investigators saw that a number of racially derogatory phrases and symbols had been spray painted onto the walls and booth cushions. Among the messages written during the extended act of vandalism were the initials MAGA, in reference to former President Donald Trump's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." Law enforcement found shattered mirrors, sliced wires, and a destroyed video surveillance system as well. Coughman claimed to have noticed the damage to his business earlier in the day, but had neglected to call the police. Following further investigation, however, it was determined that the destruction had occurred much later than Coughman had initially stated. The authorities therefore concluded that the business owner had caused the damage himself in order to make it appear as though he'd been the victim of a hate crime. The fraudulent course of action would have allowed him to file a claim with his insurance company. Coughman was ultimately arrested on charges of filing a false report of a crime, insurance fraud, and concealing a license plate. As of recent updates on the case, the charges levied against Coughman were still pending, and he'd also been charged with aggravated assault and robbery for incidents unrelated to the burglary hoax. Number 5. Sabrina Belcher. In 2020, South Carolina rapper Sabrina Belcher ran to be the first African-American mayor in the town of Sumter. During the 29-year-old's campaign, reports surfaced that she'd been kidnapped, beaten, and robbed by an unknown assailant. The incident was streamed in its entirety via Facebook Live. Shortly before 11:30 p.m. on August the 18th of 2020, Belcher was taken to Prisma Health Toomey Hospital, where she was treated for the injury she alleged to have sustained during the assault, which had also resulted in her car windows being shattered. Much of the footage depicting the altercation was obscured by darkness, but Belcher's supposed attacker threatened to kill her multiple times before striking her in the stomach with a metal bat. The video came to an abrupt end as Belcher was being forcibly dragged from the car. A few days later, it emerged that Sumter police had actually taken Belcher into custody on charges of conspiracy and filing a false police report. The charges accompanied the revelation that the woman had staged her kidnapping in an effort to portray herself as an oppressed victim and, in effect, gain sympathy votes from the general public. The man pretending to be her attacker in the Facebook Live clip was identified as Christopher Eady, who was also arrested according to the resulting police report. In the immediate aftermath of Belcher's detainment, she chose to remain in the race for Sumter's mayor. However, in November of 2020, former city council member David Merchant won the election. In September of the following year, Belcher reportedly pleaded guilty to the charges levied against her, and she was consequently ordered to serve 3 years of probation and perform 80 hours of community service. Number 4. Leah Jumeaux. In October of 2020, pictures of British woman Leah Jumeaux bound and gagged next to a gun was sent to her ex-boyfriend. The messages, purportedly coming from the 20-year-old woman's kidnapper, indicated that she would only be returned unharmed in exchange for a ransom of approximately $2,500. When the police were notified of the situation, investigators quickly uncovered multiple inconsistencies in the story as it had been presented to Jumeaux's ex-boyfriend. It subsequently emerged that the young woman had staged her own kidnapping in order to swindle her former partner out of money, which she reportedly intended to use to buy Christmas presents for her family. Jumeaux was consequently arrested and charged with blackmail and fraud by false representation. In January of 2022, she reached a deal with prosecutors in which she admitted guilt to the lesser charge of fraud in exchange for a sentence of 34 weeks in jail. Jumeaux was also reportedly ordered to pay $200 in restitution to her former boyfriend. Number 3. Rebecca Palmer. In 2015, Rebecca Palmer made a series of allegations, including of assault, fraud, and blackmail, against a soldier based at the UK military installation in Tidworth. The soldier, who reportedly served with the King's Royal Hussars and was aged 20 at the time of his alleged crimes, was detained and questioned for more than 19 hours. After he was released on bail, 26-year-old Palmer accused him of violating the conditions of his discharge by stalking and harassing her. She also allegedly sent threatening messages to the man's mother and her friends. Shortly thereafter, the police determined that each of Palmer's allegations against the soldier had been completely fabricated. Subsequent reports detailed how she'd pretended to be a victim of the man's abuse, thereby making his life a living hell in an act of retaliation against him. The woman's anger reportedly stemmed from the unnamed soldier rejecting her romantic advances. Following a criminal trial at Winchester Crown Court, Palmer was convicted of 4 counts of perverting the course of justice, as well as 5 additional counts of sending malicious communications, to which she pleaded guilty. She was consequently sentenced to spend 5 years behind bars, a term deemed excessive by her lawyers, as they felt it didn't take into account her reported significant mental health difficulties. Today's topic was requested by Cubonic. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Chris Hollingsworth. Louisiana State Trooper Chris Hollingsworth died after crashing into a highway guardrail in Monroe in the early morning hours of September the 21st of 2020. Days earlier, the 46-year-old police veteran had been interviewed by internal investigators about the 2019 arrest of motorist Ronald Green. The latter had reportedly been shocked with a taser and beaten to death with a flashlight following a high-speed chase in northeast Louisiana. As was captured by Hollingsworth's body cam, he'd initially boasted to fellow officers about brutally beating the man to the point of him being bloodied and barely conscious, in spite of the fact that he'd been apologetic and cooperative with the police. Upon being formally questioned about the incident, Hollingsworth's self-assured demeanor shifted to one of trepidation as he attempted to convey that he'd acted out of fear upon ruthlessly attacking Green. He attempted to portray himself as the victim in the situation, claiming to have been scared of what Green might do to him if left unrestrained. Detectives investigating the matter ultimately determined that Hollingsworth's revised version of the events didn't align with the facts of the case, deduced from body and dashcam footage. Due to his sudden death, the officer was never criminally charged in connection to Green's killing. Some theorized that Hollingsworth had actually crashed his car on purpose in an effort to end his own life and avoid having to face the consequences of his past actions. Number 1. Samantha Alonso Luna. Shortly before 8:30 p.m. on June the 16th of 2018, officers from the Humboldt State University Police Department in Arcata, California, initiated a traffic stop after witnessing the passenger of a vehicle recklessly hanging their head out of the sunroof. In a series of videos later posted to Facebook, 5 members of law enforcement were shown getting into an altercation with another one of the car's occupants, 20-year-old Samantha Alonso Luna. As indicated by subsequent reports, she'd refused to properly identify herself to Officer Janelle Jackson, which led to a heated verbal exchange between them. As tensions escalated, Alonso Luna was pulled from the front passenger seat of the vehicle, at which point a second officer assisted Jackson in subduing her. Alonso Luna proceeded to shout a barrage of profanities at the officers as she kicked and fought them hysterically. At one point, the young woman allegedly grabbed the hair of one officer and refused to loosen her grip until she was finally placed in handcuffs and forced into the back of a cruiser. Court records detailed how in the incident's aftermath, Alonso Luna was charged with 7 misdemeanors, including giving false information to a police officer, public intoxication, battery on a peace officer, and 4 counts of resisting officials. As of the latest updates on the case, it was reported that a plea deal was being negotiated between Alonso Luna and state prosecutors. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be blamed for all of your co-workers' mistakes or always be cut in line wherever you go? Let us know in the comments section below.